This week we're kind of back into the grind a little bit. I haven't really ever shared any, I've never really shared any Tony Robbins stuff, and some of it's just so hoorah, but he's in the right rooms, the right people, helping the right businesses and stuff. So I'm going to share a video of his, and it's really about understanding that you are the owner of your business. There's a different mentality that happens when you take on the ownership role versus the I'm just a realtor role, or I'm just here, I show up and do this work role. I think it forces you to work on your business. So he's got six things that a couple of them will pertain to the real estate. Um, and then at the end, I kind of would like to have a little discussion and kind of pump you up about a listing challenge we have coming in a few weeks. So let me get to my screen here. Let's see how this works out. Um, I know how to do this. Okay, share screen. Boom. Sorry, man. These public schools, they catch up to you every day. All right, here we go. All right, so this is Tony Robbins. It's a little, I mean, it's based on scaling, but the idea right now, this time of year, let me get some messaging in your head. And why we're doing a listing challenge in May versus April or March. Um, you, many of you are working through multiple closings. I mean, some of you have five, six, seven pendings in March, five, six, seven, 10 pendings in April, and you are scaled out. You've reached your capacity. So the idea is if you think about your business as an owner, maybe some of these strategies will come into play. So here we go.
The largest change for any business person, any owner of a business is to actually become an owner and not just an operator. Because there's a very different thing between being self-employed and owning a business. And there's nothing wrong with being self-employed because it'll still give you several benefits. You control your time, right? You control your hours, you control what you do, you have more flexibility, you get to call the shots. But most people that are self-employed are pretty exhausted because whenever someone tells me in their business and I'm so burnt out, I know that that person is what I would call a business operator. And I know this sounds like just semantics, but it's not. When you're the operator, this is what happens. You start a business. Most of us start a business because we're passionate about something. Maybe you work for somebody else. And one day you went, man, I'm writing this software. I'm the base of this company, or I'm the top marketer, or I'm the top salesperson or negotiator, or I design the fashion materials. I should just do this myself. And it sounds really cool. And you begin it. In the beginning, it's okay. Because if someone says, I want a green suit, you make them a green suit. But in order to grow, you have to learn how to scale. And that's what this session is going to be about. This session is about how do you grow explosively in your business, and how do you do that in any financial environment by learning how to truly scale. And scaling is where you're able to do something and keep growing it further and further. Think in terms of the difference between somebody like, I don't know, the city I grew up in, the little town I grew up in, there's a little burger shop there. And you might have had one in your town, Irv's Burgers, right? And it has people standing outside in line, different parts of the day to get in. It's so popular. It has the best burgers in town. And if I went back to that town, which I did about 5 years ago, it had been 30 years since I'd been there, and Irv's Burgers is still there. And Irv is a little older and there with his staff doing it, and he still makes one of the best burgers in town. The only problem is there was a guy over here named McDonald's, two brothers who came up with an idea, but what they did is they figured out how to scale it. Actually, they didn't. Ray Kroc did. Someone else came in, was entrepreneurial, and said, you guys are working so hard with this little center here, I think we could take this to another level. That it wouldn't cost, we don't have to spend a huge more amount of money. We could take this business and expand it. So the difference between Irv, by the way, does McDonald's have the best burger? The answer is no. But McDonald's sells more burgers than anybody on earth. And so the difference is they figured out how to scale. Now, I believe you can do quality and scale, and many people have figured out how to do that. I don't know if McDonald's has, but the scaling is what makes them successful. But the psychological shift that has to happen in you, and I'm hoping this can be the beginning of that shift for you. I mean, I normally spend 5 days with someone day and night to make these shifts and give them every tool and strategy so they're certain. I think I can plant strong enough seeds with you if you really, give to yourself to this, to really start this process of being the owner and start this process of scaling. And by the way, and to do it in any environment whatsoever. Because right now, and a lot of people say, well, it's really uncertain right now. If you heard the Fed chairman just the other day said, he doesn't know what to do. I mean, he literally said he doesn't know what to do. He's not sure if the economy is going to grow or shrink, whether they're going to have inflation or not, because there's this uncertainty based on the tariffs that the current president has put out. Now, whether you like that president or hate that president or have no feeling about the president doesn't matter. I'm an independent personally, so I voted on both sides of the aisle. But what I think is really important, there's a great lesson right now in what's happening in our economy. It's a time of uncertainty. What do most people do when they're uncertain? Nothing. They hold back, they pull back. This happens whenever we have recessions. And during that happens, most businesses shrink because they're fearful. But when you shrink based on the fear, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And pretty soon, it's hard to get going again. My secret and the reason I'm still here in business and be able to do what I'm doing here, this is my 48th year. I'm well preserved. I started when I was 3, you understand, right? Right? But 48 years ago is when I started my first business, and here I am still doing it, right? But I've been able to do that going through every economy you can imagine. And the reason is because I understood very early on, it's not the economy, it's your psychology. The most important key in your business is to become an owner, but also that when people are fearful, that is your opportunity. When people are uncertain, that is your opportunity. You can't allow yourself to stay in fear. It's okay to be fearful, that's called being human. It's okay to get uncertain, but when you feel it, you've got to push yourself through it. It's like, when the people say, when you're going through hell, what do they say? Keep going. That's the secret. And if you keep going, you get to the other side. So there's a certain amount of relentlessness you need to have. And you've got to learn really how to put yourself in a position where you see beyond the moment, right? People only see this moment, usually make mistakes. You need to see beyond the moment, because when this all happened, the stock market compressed, people freaked out, and a lot of people sold their stock. And all across the news, they said, oh my God, we've lost $13 trillion in value. The president's destroyed the country, right? And again, I'm not promoting the president. I just want you to think beyond the headlines, because otherwise you'll be suckered into being in fear. Because if it isn't this president, it'll be something else. It'll be COVID. It'll be the environment. It'll be some reason why you can't succeed, and you should be fearful and live in this place, because fear sells. If you're in a position where you're walking by in the old days, I'm old enough to remember newspapers, and sure enough, you go by and there'd be a headline. And if the headline said, great weather this weekend, you smiled and kept walking. If it said, big storm coming, you put your 50 cents in and you got it. Well, today it's in your pocket following you on your phone, obviously, but they get paid every time you look, every time you click. And they know fear sells. That's why in the news business, they've always said, if it bleeds, it leads. If you're going to be the owner of your business, the owner of your life, if you're going to compete and be strong, you got to manage this and this, your head and heart. You got to learn how to manage your state. You got to learn to really think like an owner, not like an operator that's freaked out. An operator, by the way, is trying to do everything themselves, because they go, I can't hire anybody else, I can't afford them, or I can't hire anybody else because, they won't be as good as me. And all those things probably are true in the beginning. But there's a way around them if you're resourceful, and if you're relentless, if you're creative enough. 80% of success is psychology, mindset, the emotion, the beliefs of a person. 20% of determining their success is strategy. And it doesn't matter if it's a tiny business or someone just beginning or a big business, the principles are the same. How many of you know something that you need to change in your life, know how to change it, know you should change it, and still haven't changed it? Make a little noise if you can relate to this in some way. So that's not a how-to problem, that's a psychological shift, a shift in beliefs, a shift in emotion, and you have to condition that shift. So I can't do that all for today for you, but I can plant the seed that if you decide, you can consume it and you can go use it and you can immerse yourself. And immersion is how you're gonna make these changes. You might have to do a little pain in the short term to have a long-term success, but if you are relentless, you will experience it. Everybody wants to work at home. And it's so nice, it's so convenient, but it misses something. It misses mentorship, right? I remember I was listening to the CEO, of one of the largest banks in the world here, who kind of went off, and they had an audio recording of it. But he was talking about this whole idea of virtual. He goes, "It sounds nice, but then you're never going to become anybody because you get around somebody you can learn from and absorb from. Just doing a, Zoom every now and then doesn't do it. There's proximity is power. If you get around people that are the best in the world, you're going to absorb some of it. If you're doing it from a distance, it's okay, but it's not the same." And so he met a man there at Bell Labs who became his mentor, but he was not nice to him. He just said, "Look, kid, we got this problem. Go figure out how to solve it." And so, his parents had told him your job in life is to solve problems. So he went to the library in those days, and he didn't even know what the words meant and what the problem was. He studied, figured it out. He came back to the guy and he said, "I figured this and this out, but I haven't figured that out." He goes, "Okay, I'm impressed you did that work." And he mentored him. He said, "You look for this, this, and this." And he sent him off again. Well, within 3 weeks, he solved this huge problem for Bell Laboratories at 17 years old. And they said, "This kid's a genius." No, his genius was relentlessness. His genius was he wouldn't give up. His genius was he was so hungry and driven that he was willing to do whatever it took. But then he kept coming back to this guy. And because he kept coming back to the mentor with hard work and results, the guy took an interest in him. And that's where his entire career started. And to this day, Robert will tell you that same curiosity, that same relentlessness is the secret. Leaders are those that get results. What makes you a leader is not your age, it's not your position, it's your ability to get results, especially when other people aren't getting it. But if leaders are about getting results, the question you have to ask yourself is, how do you get results? And the answer is, you solve problems. Our job as leaders of our businesses, of our families, of our lives, is to solve problems. Now, by the way, I hear people all the time. I tell people, you know what people's biggest problem is? If you had to say, what's people's biggest problem? Most people's biggest problem, I'll tell you what it is. They think they shouldn't have any, right? Problems are a sign of life. Problems are designed to sculpt our souls. Without problems, we don't grow as much. We don't want them, but they're there for a purpose. They're not there to torture you. Now, if you're in business, you have problems. If you don't, you're not in business, or you're ignorant, right? Now, you might call them challenges. That feels better. So if you don't have one, or if you don't have some problems, you should get on your knees and beg for some, because you're not going to be here very long. Think of it this way. There's a problem, and then most people ignore the problem, or they blame somebody for the problem, or they blame the world, or they blame the economy, or they blame themselves. Blame never improves anything. The only next step is you have to make a change.
Okay, that was pretty hypey, I guess. I don't know how else to say that. What I would say, I made some notes, and so if anyone else has any thoughts, speak up. But I watched this the other day, and a couple things popped up. One is I just want to go through them real quick. Number one was being understanding if you're self-employed or you have true ownership in a business, right? Number two is uncertainty, and he got a little political, but he tried to not get political. But the point was to get fear out of your way, right? And I mean, honestly, if you, I think it's there's always something, whether it's some murdering hornets or whatever it was, or it's COVID, or it's real serious stuff, but it's really just fear-driven stuff. And so, as an owner of your business, that cannot dictate the actions you take. So, in real estate, the uncertainty that becomes a lack of opportunity for us mentally is probably interest rates and inventory, right? That's real estate related, but that obviously provides a lot of opportunities. We're seeing in the real estate business, I see Ben on here, and we're seeing in the mortgage side of the business a lot more opportunity, a lot of different loans coming out over the last few years because of opportunity, right? And not because of, and that uncertainty is what's driven that. Number three was your state of mind, basically your state, your heart and your head. And I've always been told, well, your head will tell you what to do, but I think it starts before that. I really think your heart tells your head what to do. I think if you have your heart in place, then your head will make the right things. Number four was mindset and strategy. And so realtors need to ask the following. I think realtors need to ask, and especially in the spring market, have I reached my capacity because of my workload, or have I reached my capacity because of my emotional state? I think the emotions uh, cap get to capacity before your actual workload gets to capacity. And and then the idea is then you have to systematize things, or you have to get your schedule under control. Five was mentorship. I think we absolutely outshine most brokerages and most businesses with the mentorship of which we provide. I mean, I see Gina Culp a couple times a week. She's doing something in two or three or four or five offices every week. And then I hear from managers or our office leaders every week, and they're doing something weekly in mentorship. And then I walk through an office and somebody just has a question, and another agent slides in without being prompted, and they have this servant mentality, and that mentorship just slides right into place. And it doesn't need to have happen around just real estate. It happens around life and the juggling of this business and stuff. So the last one was leadership. And you might think, well, leadership is an office manager. No, leadership is you in your own business. And he said you get results because you solve problems. That's what your leadership is, getting results. And you do that through solving problems. That's all we do in a spring market to get things to closing. But it's not just transaction or deal doctoring that gets results. It's really about getting results in your schedule, getting results in your lead generation. Right now, it's going to be getting results in your lead conversion, because you should be getting more leads as the market gets a little more active. And so I wrote down five things that how to scale as a real estate agent I think are necessary in a way to scale from what I observe around the industry. And number one is the first thing is to get control of your schedule. You are not at capacity until you have control of your schedule, meaning there's plenty of better, more productive time in your schedule right now. Ninja calls it, they call it P time, which is productive time, and the things that lead into that time are things you can do after your productive time. Mike Ferry, they would obviously have you scheduled in your prospecting. That's the most productive time. They'd have you, you would know exactly how much you made per hour on your productive time. Buffini would be actually talking to people that you know and having some other strategies in place to get in front of the people who already like and trust you. That's all that is it's just control your schedule. I mean, our connections program that's, multiple things you can be doing with the tools we have. All it is to put you in front of people so that they can continue to like and trust you. And then you can take the next step in building that relationship to get the referral. But that's productive time. Number two would be use all of the automation, not just SkySlope and the tasks in SkySlope, but it's market reports, number trend reports. It's your listing checklist when you take a listing and the admin doing their stuff. It's testimony tree automatically going in because you put stuff in the SkySlope. But all the free or the stuff that doesn't cost you upfront money, all that automation, whether it's admins or your CRM or SkySlope, that's the second thing that you can get into place after your schedule to scale as a realtor. And the third one would be you got to lean on your culture. And we're fortunate, and we don't realize it sometimes, and I grew up here. So I think this is how it is everywhere until I poke my head out of our little bubble and I realize, oh my gosh, it's harder these other places. But being a top producing agent, having 5 to 10, 20 listings and not having to work on Sundays to get your listing serviced at an open house or Saturdays uh, is a part of culture that you can lean on, um, and you can provide some mentorship as a leader to that agent who wants to hold them open, right? Or the agent just wants to do it as an extension of you to provide service to your client for the opportunity for lead generation and possibly selling that listing. So lean on the culture. You can always get showing help. I know right now I think one of our agents was in Florida a few weeks ago, and I called Rich Costello on the east side and said, "Hey, would anyone be interested in showing a house for our agent who's in Florida?" Boom. I see it all the time in our offices. People just jump in and help each other. You could really, really build a nice little network around the company of people you trust in other areas so that you wouldn't lose control of your schedule, and therefore you wouldn't lose the capacity, your emotional capacity. You'd be working right through your schedule and be fine. And then the fourth thing and you can always refer buyers, by the way. if you lean on your culture, there's going to be someone right down the hallway from you. If you're showing up and you're having relationships with people, right down the hallway, there's going to be somebody who will take a referral, and you can keep 30, 35%, 25%, whatever, and they'll just run with your buyers. And that's how you grow and reach your capacity in the listing side. Number four would be hire a transaction coordinator. So use SkySlope to its full capability and then get a transaction coordinator, right? And then the fifth thing to really scale, once you get to all those things kind of down and that you've mastered them and you have this kind of schedule and things are moving along, you're generating your own leads by doing that, by the way, because your productive time is lead generation and then lead conversion. The last thing that you would do, I think, would be hire somebody to be your buyer's agent. Make sense? So you're never really out showing properties unless maybe it's a close friend, client, or it's a seller becoming a buyer. You would just lean heavily and feed this person with the overflow opportunities you had on the buyer side. So,
Hey, Ted.
yeah,
Hey, what would you tell an agent that believes they are better as a buyer's agent than a listing agent for that last point?
I would say, well, there's a deeper conversation is why do you believe that? And I think why they would believe that is they're thinking as self-employed person, not an owner of a business. And so there's ways to do both. But if you want your business to be 70-30 and you want it 70% buyers, 30% listings, it's because you don't like the pressure of the listing and having to perform that way. And being a buyer is a little easier and more fun. And I don't mean easier by time or driving around. You just don't have to have this quite the skill set to win a listing and to get a price reduction and negotiate up front and then keep someone happy for multiple months. So if somebody was to come to me, I guess, and say, "Well, I like buyers, and how can I scale my business with buyers?" Um, you're going to have to get control of your schedule, and you're going to have to probably quicker than a listing agent hire a transaction coordinator. That'd probably be the second thing you would do, because the automation is hard to replace on the buyer side because the automation is you and your car. And so that's what I would say. And I would try to get the person, I wouldn't take them behind the woodshed, I guess, but they need to slap themselves around a little bit and realize that if you're going to own a business in real estate, the listings are the business. So they're just not as much fun for most people. And so that's why we got into this business. But this whole today's talk is really about understanding scaling your business, and the really only way that you can scale with the limited time that we have is through listings. You can do it with buyers. You're gonna reach your capacity, as we talked about earlier. So as a realtor asks, did I reach my capacity because of my emotional cap capacity, or did I reach it because of my workload capacity? A buyer side of the business, your workload capacity gets met a lot sooner. And I think maybe it's possible that on the listing side of the business, your emotional state could get hit a lot sooner. So I don't know. Did I answer that? Did I dodge that? Could I run for
No,
office?
no, that
Did
was a
that
good
answer?
answer. No,
Okay.
that was good. Thanks.
I don't want to run for office. Thanks. Make me feel better. Rusty, you're kind of a thinker. So I'm gonna pick on Rusty for a minute because it's very easy to pick on Rusty, but you're a thinker. How did today's kind of topic and stuff? What'd you get? Give us something you got out of this.
Let me think about that.
Yeah, he's like, nothing, Ted. This is a dud.
No, no, it was good. I listened to a lot of just Tony Robbins type of stuff, not some of his stuff, some other stuff, and I think it's easy for me. I see it, I read it, listen to it, and I was like, oh man, that's good stuff. And then I just revert back to my old ways. And
Yeah,
and it's kind of like I enjoy reading self-improvement books, and I was like, oh
yeah.
man, this is great stuff. And then it's like, well, that was a great book. Put it back on the shelf with all the others I've read,
Mhm.
and let it continue to collect dust. So I think the hardest part about this stuff and all the things you shared is like getting out of your own way and just follow the recipe,
Mhm.
whatever it is, follow the program and execute. And that's where I sometimes I feel like I'm just running in circles, when if I would just execute the plan, if I had a solid schedule, that I followed on a route. And I think consistency is probably the kind of like he was talking about the guy who had the mentor. He came back and he was just consistent and relentless. And I think if you just dig into a few things like that and execute those things consistently every day, every week,
Yeah.
the
So
results will come.
yeah, and I've witnessed this happen to a lot of people in this business where the inconsistency gets them out of the business, or the inconsistency forces the roller coaster, right? It just is. And it usually starts with emotional capacity. We'll have a couple people that can only do a couple transactions at a time because they're so heavily invested in the words of the conversation instead of the facts of the conversation, right? And then that becomes a problem. It I think compounding the little things, what Rusty's saying is, well, I mean, believe it or not, Rusty, you're just normal. You're not you're not abnormal. Well, you're
That's the
abnormal in
nicest thing you've
different
ever
ways.
said about me, Ted.
Yeah, it is. And that's why I gave you that compliment. That's such a high compliment for you, is that you're normal. But you're a normal realtor. You're an extraordinary person. You're a normal realtor. But I would say it really does come down to what do you want? Do I want to sell 5 million, 10 million, 30 million, 100 million, whatever? And then what does that number look like? I can tell you today, since the beginning of April, there's been 1,110 expireds in my board. Now I broke that down this morning, and it's 887 of those are residential for sale expireds in all of my board. So it's everywhere. From 0 to 300,000 sale price, 510 of those. I think we could sell almost every listing under 300,000 today with the right strategy. So maybe and then 300 to 600,000 is 293 of those. That's just this month. And so the opportunity of breaking down your schedule and saying, okay, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to call 5 people I know. Just do that tomorrow. And then I'm going to call 5 people I don't know. That compounded over time becomes the difference in owning a business versus working in the business because you know why you're doing it, not the fact that you're just doing it, I guess. So that's
Hey,
today's
Ted.
message. Yep, please.
Hey, real quick, the part that resonated with me, this is Deb, by the way.
Yep.
Part that resonated with me about that whole thing was when he talked about fear. And I think people don't get stuck in fear as much as they choose fear as an obstacle or a challenge because I think it's easier to choose that fear and not make my goals, not
Yeah.
than it is to put myself out there and not make my goals. Because fear can always be a safe excuse, right?
Yes.
But if I get through the fear and I put myself out there and then I don't make my goals, that's a harder pill to swallow. So I think we really have to help people get past that fear of using it as a very easy excuse not to succeed.
Well, and that you can break that all the way down to our buyers have fear, our sellers have fear, our buyer's uncle, who's a realtor in Michigan, has fear, and they all get in the way. But when we volunteer the fear, is what Deb's saying. That is such a good point. It's really easy to sit there and waller in that stuff. Well, it's just the way it's going to be. Instead of I can control this moment by accepting that I'm not going to buy into the fear. That is huge. And
Hey
so,
Ted,
yep, Eric.
it's Eric. I'm driving, so my video's off. But I was taught early in this job that fear has two definitions. It's fight everything and run, or face everything and rise. And so I choose the latter, and that's
Hmm.
really helped me out a lot.
Yeah, last night I had two conversations with agents last night after dinner time, we'll say, and both were kind of fear motivated conversations instead of factual. And this is how we tackle it. And I've learned in this role over the last 10 years, I've learned that everything's a challenge. And that when you rise above it, you don't accept it. And that's to your point and to Deb's point. I think that's awesome. Okay, we're gonna wrap up with this. We're gonna wrap up with this unless someone else has something else, which is fine. I want to share this with you. I don't know why this is so exciting to me. We're gonna give away. Now listen, we're gonna give away thousand of dollars. There's no S, thousand of dollars in May. Uh, and we're going to do it weekly. We're going to give away money. So I have Darcy helping me kick this off on May 1st. We're going to give away some marketing things on May 1st on the kickoff. I am currently, as some of you know, I'm currently in Facebook jail for a comment I made that had the word Xanax in it. And so I'm in jail until the 12th, I think it is, of May, although I've appealed. So until then, we're going to do Zoom, probably going to use this link. But what you need to do, if you haven't seen this yet, you'll get an email, or Darcy did a marketing minute yesterday on it. You'll get an email to sign up. We've had dozens of people sign up within minutes of us rolling this out. I want hundreds of us to be supporting each other during the month of May around the idea of let's get to some listing appointments, let's get better at listing appointments, and let's get better at generating some listings. And here's why. And we'll talk about it on May 1st a little bit too. You're all working through your capacity in the spring market, and then you're going to have zero inventory for the summer. The only way you can get to the pool with your kids or grandkids this summer is to have a listing inventory. The only way you can go on a hike at your local park in the middle of the day is to not be showing houses to 10 buyers, but to have 10 listings. And so to get control of your life and those 6 things that Tony Robbins talked about and scale your business as a realtor, and the 5 things I shared with you is to accept the fact that I can have a listing inventory. And then you do the little things like rising above and not accepting the fear, not bringing fear to it. So we're going to spend the first week talking about building your pipeline. I got Randy Thomas coming on. He's going to give away $100. Boom, just right there. Week 2, we're going to talk about winning appointments, and our guest speakers on the fence a little bit. And then, but week 3, we have somebody from Mike Ferry, who is I'll say their newest stage speaker. He's going to be here with us. And then week 4, Deb Nally has found us a very successful Buffini coach. And Deb, I'll get to you details on that. And they're going to talk about being able to multiply, getting multiple business out of one thing. In the meantime, the whole month is going to be a Facebook group of which you can post in, see success, ask questions. We're all going to lean on each other in that Facebook group and have some kind of weekly challenges in there. So, all right. So sign up. Find a way to sign up, or go to your marketing minute yesterday from Darcy if you don't know where to sign up. And by the middle of next week, you'll get an invite to the Facebook group, and we'll be rolling. We'll be rolling. It's going to be a great summer because we've had a great spring. By the way, we've listed 60 more homes this year than we did last year. For every listing that we've taken this year, we've had 1.86 sales. That's why you want listings. Almost 2. For every listing, you get 2 pendings. For every listing, you get 2 pendings almost. So, all right, that's it. That's all we got. Let's go get them. The weather's nice. We could be out knocking on doors today and without getting tasered, Rusty. Unless you want to knock on enough doors to get tasered. Get a video of that. Let us know. All right. Have a good week.